Nicola Adams, the woman who redefined British boxing for generations. British boxing followed a familiar pattern: men at the centre, men in the headlines, men shaping the legacy. But history does not always change with noise. Sometimes it changes quietly, until the world has no choice but to notice. This is the story of Nicola Adams, a fighter who did far more than win medals. She changed what boxing in Britain could look like. And as we tell her story, we ask you to decide: is Nicola Adams the greatest British boxer of all time, regardless of gender? Or is her legacy something even bigger than titles? A childhood far from glory. Nicola Adams was born in 1982 in Leeds, England. Her childhood was not built around privilege or certainty. Her parents separated when she was young, and her mother raised her largely on her own. Sport became an outlet, a way to focus, a way to belong. Nicola tried football, athletics, and other activities before discovering boxing at the age of 12. At the time, women's boxing in Britain barely existed. There were no clear pathways, no heroes to follow. And that raises the first question: what kind of belief does it take to commit to a sport that offers no future yet? Fighting invisibility. In her early years, Nicola Adams trained almost exclusively with boys. She was often the only girl in the gym. There were no women's divisions in the Olympics, no televised fights, no financial incentives. What she had instead was patience and resilience. She lost her first amateur bout, a moment she has often described as pivotal. Rather than walking away, she doubled down. Slowly, she began to dominate the amateur scene, not with brute force, but with speed, movement, and intelligence. Her style was fluid, tactical, and composed. Still, recognition was limited. So ask yourself, how many champions give up before history catches up to them? London 2012. The moment everything changed. The London 2012 Olympic Games changed everything. For the first time in history, women's boxing was included in the Olympic program, and Nicola Adams was there, not as a favorite, but as a symbol. What followed was extraordinary. Fight by fight, Adams outclassed her opponents. Calm, precise, untouchable. When she won the gold medal, Nicola Adams became the first woman ever to win an Olympic boxing gold medal. Not just for Britain, for the world. The image of her smiling on the podium became a defining moment in British sporting history. So here's a question for you. Was that the greatest single moment in British boxing history? Doubled legacy. Rio 2016. Some champions peak once, great ones repeat it. In Rio 2016, Nicola Adams returned, older, more experienced, and carrying expectation. The pressure was immense. She was no longer the underdog. She won gold again. 2 Olympic gold medals, an unbeaten Olympic career. At that point, her place in sporting history was secured. But another question emerged. When you've already changed the sport, what do you fight for next? The professional gamble. Nicola Adams turned professional later than most fighters. The professional women's scene was still developing, and expectations were uncertain. She signed with Matchroom Boxing and quickly became a world champion, capturing the WBO flyweight title. Yet her professional career never reached the same length or volume as her amateur one. Injuries and medical concerns, particularly related to her vision, began to surface. Eventually, doctors advised her to step away. Nicola Adams retired undefeated as a professional. Which leads to a difficult question. Is greatness about longevity or impact? Life outside the ring. Outside boxing, Nicola Adams became something just as powerful, a cultural figure. She spoke openly about identity, representation, and inclusion. She became one of Britain's most visible LGBTQ+ athletes, using her platform with honesty rather than controversy. She appeared on television, documentaries, and public campaigns, not as a fighter, but as a role model. For many young people, especially young women, Nicola Adams represented something boxing had never offered before: visibility. So we ask, can an athlete's greatest contribution happen outside competition? Comparisons, debates, and legacy today. British boxing has produced many great women, champions, world title holders, global stars. But Nicola Adams remains unique. She was first, she was patient, she opened the door. She did not benefit from the system. She created the conditions for it to exist. So here is the central question of this documentary. Is Nicola Adams the greatest British boxer ever? Or is her legacy so different that comparison no longer applies? Should greatness be measured only by belts or by barriers broken? Your verdict: Nicola Adams did not shout her way into history. She smiled her way there. She fought when there was no stage. She won when no one was watching. And when the world finally paid attention, she delivered. Now, it's your turn. Tell us in the comments, do you believe Nicola Adams is the greatest British boxer of all time? Or do you think her true legacy goes beyond the ring? Because some champions win fights, others change the fight itself.